O jogo do Indiana Jones and the Great Circle talvez seja o último jogo do ano, assim, né? Está saindo em dezembro, de destaque aqui pra gente dar uma conferida. E bem, a galera já teve como botar as mãos no jogo, fazer aqui uma prévia, que saiu semana passada, mas que a semana passada foi lotada de coisa pra gente fazer. E não deu tempo pra gente dar uma olhada, mas venho aqui hoje pra gente dar uma conferida aqui, pra ver se o jogo tá um potencial bacana ou temos algo a se preocupar. Vamos lá, galera, se curtiu o vídeo, não esquece de deixar aquele crítico no like e se inscreve no canal, mano, que isso faz vídeo aqui todos os dias. Então bora nessa. Fala, galera, aqui é o Kaká e, mano, a nossa vídeo de react de hoje, ele vai direto da IGN, tá? E tá com aquelas legendas automáticas, mas pelo histórico aqui, né, dá pra gente acompanhar bem legal. Então vamos nessa.
The last truly great Indiana Jones movie came out 35 years ago. Since then, pop culture's most famous archaeologists' last two big screen outings have been flops. In fact, Indy's best work since The Last Crusade has come in video game form. 1992's LucasArts point-and-click adventure classic The Fate of Atlantis, The Collective's excellent third-person action adventure The Emperor's Tomb on PS2 and original Xbox in 2003, and more recently, the Lego Indiana Jones games in 2008 and 2009. So no matter how you look at it, it's been a long time since Indy has showed out. And it's fair to wonder if the current generation of gamers even cares about Dr. Henry Jones and his relic-chasing, Nazi-punching
Indiana Jones é mais coisa de, pô,
I'm here to tell you that after playing a few hours of Machine Games' Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, generations of gamers both new and old should care. Because as good as the studio's recent Wolfenstein reboots were, the Great Circle might be even better.
Ó, vamos ver então.
On next plane to Rome. Stop. Need help. Stop. Meet me in Vatican. Stop. Indy.
What playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle showed me, among other things, is that it's more of an adventure-action game rather than the typical action-adventure game. And it's absolutely not a first-person shooter. Yes, Indy has a revolver here. You can also grab rifles and German Luger pistols. But I used it exactly once the entire time I played. And when I did, the gun wasn't the only thing that got loud. It alerted everyone at the Giza dig site near the Great Pyramids, and Indiana Jones is no match for two armed bad guys, let alone several. In short, firearms are clearly a last resort in the Great Circle.
Pelo visto vai ter bastante stealth, né? Se usar a arma ali, isso já era seu stealth.
My hands-on session started at the beginning of the campaign at Marshall College, where Dr. Jones is, of course, a professor of archaeology.
Archaeology is the search for fact, not truth.
Indy's working late with his friend and colleague Dr. Marcus Brody. A noise stirs him and Henry investigates, with you controlling our hero as he walks down the college hall towards the source of the noise, finding broken glass and a display scattered along the way. Thus we come to the Great Circle's first puzzle, putting the fallen relics back on their proper shelves using clues in the displays.
That statue goes in the Egyptian section.
Once that's done, Indy encounters an extremely tall man wearing a talisman who takes something from the college's museum display, beats up our good doctor, and escapes, leaving the pendant around his neck behind after it tore off during his getaway. When a presumably concussed Dr. Jones awakens the next morning, he and Marcus suss out a lead based on the stolen relic.
He took the cat mummy, Marcus. But why?
And Indy quickly packs for the Vatican, bringing only his bullwhip, the pendant, a vinyl record for a friend in Italy, and of course, Indy's infamous fedora. The gameplay during the Vatican mission reminded me of a classic game I didn't expect the Great Circle to tap into, but I certainly didn't mind. Thief. I suppose the nighttime setting and classic Italian architecture contributed to that vibe, but it was more so the fact that stealth is the dominant approach here.
Eu tenho percebido isso. A maioria
Along
dos
with the
gameplays que a
fact
gente vê é
there
bem
are a
stealth.
whole lot of doors to find keys to unlock, valuables to backtrack to later, and hidden items and information all over the place.
Now, what do the black shirts want with the Vatican?
While
DeVito's.
Indy's fists are his primary weapon in the Great Circle,
Sure you did your best, champ.
I quickly
Caralho,
learned
que
that it's
socão, hein?
best to get something in his hands whenever possible, as sneaking
É,
up from
as armas
behind
são
with
mais
a
descartáveis, né,
sufficiently
porque elas
potent
quebram rápido.
object can yield a one-hit stealth takedown. I say object, by the way, since most of what I picked up weren't proper weapons, but instead things like brooms, violins, guitars, shovels, a pipe wrench, a frying pan,
Porra.
etc. Even more fun was using the push button to send bad guys crashing spine first to the ground below from great heights when encountering them up on ledges, of which there are many at the Vatican, apparently.
Entendi. Vai empurrando ele.
You asked for it.
Indy can punch, strong punch, block, shove, and use his whip to stun enemies
Caralho,
or
virou
knock the
punch-out
gun
o
out of their
bagulho.
hand. It's a simple
Tem uma
system that
estaminazinha minha
works
pra poder
quite
usar os golpes.
effectively in practice. And to once again reference Thief, you can pick up the bodies and hide them in dark corners to prevent other patrolling padres from discovering them.
Mano, então o jogo é
Note
muito
that you
stealth.
can't
É
get
muito
too
stealth.
far though, as carrying heavy adult humans around
Várias
over
mecânicas
one
de stealth.
shoulder tires Indy out, quickly spending his stamina. Fortunately, the Great Circle packs an upgrade system that lets you spend the adventure points you get from thoroughly exploring each
Adventure
environment
points.
and discovering secrets, and later, taking pictures of notable sights. You'll discover books that contain said upgrades, but you'll need sufficient adventure points to actually apply the new skill. Punch Out, for example,
Punch Out.
replenishes your stamina when an enemy is knocked out. I also used Lucky Hat a few times, which gives you a second chance when killed, in which you're on the ground, the screen goes black and white, and your fedora is somewhere nearby. If you can crawl to it in time, you'll get back up and be able to continue on.
Ah, umas mecânicas interessantes, então. É,
There's more of you?
ele deve estar
In
usando
all,
B-roll, né?
the
Não dá pra
upgrades
mostrar
fall
exatamente o que ele
into
tá falando.
5 categories: survival, fitness, packing, brawling, and combat, thus giving you incentive to not only fully explore each area, but to tailor Indy to your specific playstyle. The third and final section I got to play fast-forwarded me to Giza, Egypt, a bit later in the campaign. Here, Indy had already connected with Gina, an Italian reporter looking for her missing sister. Giza is wide open like an old Splinter Cell Chaos Theory mission. You can visit dig sites, a bazaar, and the Great Sphinx. And mercifully, street signs you find serve as fast travel points. You can highlight any area listed on the sign and you'll zip over there instantly, sparing you a lot of walking. In choosing one area to explore, I successfully snuck my way around to the opposite side of a Nazi dig site that I needed to literally get to the bottom of, where the elevator was,
No one gets
Ele
down to
descreveu
the
antes,
tomb.
tipo,
only
é
to
fast
find
travel.
that its
Tá.
two sources of power were disconnected.
Why is this thing not working?
This led to 2 more stealth sequences
Mais
into
stealth.
separate
Cara,
caves to
será que-
get them
será que
turned
ele-
back
é tipo
on,
90% stealth,
one of
10%
which
ação?
let me sadistically fry some Nazis who were standing in a pool of shallow water with a wire I just brought to life. And another even had me swimming underwater. Before finally getting to ride the reactivated
Puzzles?
elevator all the way down to the underground tomb. A stone glyph logic puzzle down there challenged me to place 3 round stone plates into their correct spots on a mural, triggering a beam of sunlight that shone across the room onto a wall. I picked up a nearby sledgehammer, bashed the wall a few times, and a hidden room was revealed.
Man, there's something behind that.
Inside was the
Ele
relic
fala,
the
viu? Tem
Nazis
alguma
were
coisa
after,
atrás ali do
but
negócio.
Indy
Ele dá uma
had
dica
beaten them
falada.
to it instead.
Nazi idiots.
Unfortunately, I soon ran out of time before my demo session ended. It turns out I'd spent more time than I should have in my limited preview window exploring other paths, taking on side quests, and taking photos of Giza.
It is something, ain't it?
In other words, I spent a bit too much time adventuring. No regrets. As I said, it's clear now that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is more of an adventure action game than an action adventure one, but after a few hours playing it, I love it for that. The first word you'd likely associate with Indiana Jones is probably adventure, not action, and the Great Circle hones in on that. I'm absolutely smitten with the look, tone, pacing, and voice acting here.
I said, who
Mas
is
o que é a
Father
aventura sem
Ventura?
ação?
Shout out to Troy Baker for effectively pulling off a 40-something indie. What Machine Games has got going here is a very unique blend of gameplay. In fact, I talked in my first hands-off preview about how much Indiana Jones and the Great Circle reminded me of 2004's seminal first-person stealth adventure game, The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay, which not only proved that licensed games could be incredible, the opposite was usually the case back then, but it showed that a first-person game didn't have to be a shooter to be riveting. Butcher Bay was built by the same core group of developers that later founded Machine Games, many of whom are still with the studio, and that Riddick influence is just as evident when playing The Great Circle as it is watching it. I don't know if executive producer Todd Howard, who famously pitched this idea to Lucasfilm many years ago, had Machine Games in mind when he came up with it.
Eu acho que
But
ele
the
falou que
pairing
tinha, sim.
absolutely works, and I absolutely
Que tava em
can't
mente
wait to
a equipe
experience
mesmo.
the rest of Indy's latest adventure. For more on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, don't miss the 5-minute cinematic trailer as well as the release date trailer. And for everything else in the world of video games, stick with IGN.
Bom, rapaziada, esse aqui foi a preview da IGN e é interessante, tá? Porque, pelo que a gente deu pra ver ali, boa parte do jogo vai ser stealth, tá? E não era algo que eu tava exatamente esperando. Eu tava esperando que a gente ia ter puzzles, stealths e puzzles, né? Então puzzle eu já tava com expectativa. Stealth também, mas não do jeito que a preview da IGN deixou entender. Pelo jeito aqui que a gente viu, é muito e muito stealth. É pouca ação, né? No B-roll que ele mandou ali, as partes de ação meio que eram partes na hora que a gente via, tipo, que o stealth ali era... ou falhou, era tipo a última resolução, sabe? Naquele mano a mano ali. Eu esperava algumas ações vistos os trailers, né? Deve ter, obviamente. Que uma parte que você tem que fugir e tal, com alguns tiroteios, que isso também faz parte de Indiana Jones, tá? Ele falou assim, é um jogo que tem mais aventura do que ação, mas as duas coisas, elas meio que andam junto, né? Uma aventura sem ação é o quê? É estranho, né? Então, eu tô curioso, mudou minha perspectiva sobre o que esperar do jogo, né? Se a gente for ver, fosse passar o jogo inteiro. Mas diz aí nos comentários, rapaziada. Eu tava esperando que ia ser essa distribuição, você esperava um pouco mais de ação. O que você esperava do Indiana Jones e bateu com o que você viu aqui? Deixa abaixo nos comentários. E claro, galera, se curtiu aqui o vídeo, não esquece de deixar aquele crítico no like. Se inscreve no canal e segue a gente nas nossas redes sociais. Pode ser ficando por aqui, valeu, abraço, até mais e fui!